I started my PhD in 2004, and it took me 20 years to get to the finish line of that degree. Honestly, there were so many days, so many months, and so many years in that time that I didn't think that I had what it took to finish what I had started. Little did I know that I would be facing severe health issues in the years ahead. And that because of that, there would be many, many starts and stops to this dissertation process. So I got sick in Africa, and then I came home and I got hit by a car on my bike. And that's a whole nother story that I will tell in a whole nother video. But because of that, I had so many health issues that made it so challenging for me to do the cognitive work that was necessary to be able to work on something like a PhD. I questioned my intelligence and my capacities. So it wasn't just the project anymore that I was wondering if I could complete. I actually was doubting myself and my mind. The turning point for me really came actually in one of the weirdest places, COVID. And so I made the decision and I committed to this decision, even though I still didn't have any certainty that I would actually be able to finish. And honestly, I didn't just suddenly feel ready. I didn't the feelings did not follow my mental decision to not quit. Um, but I decided that day that I would stop negotiating with the idea of quitting or with the thought of quitting. And that was the turning point. I realized that it was the small, consistent efforts made every single day that would actually make the biggest difference. And it was about showing up even though I had very little clarity about where I was going. And truly, I stopped waiting to feel capable and I just started acting like somebody who was committed. And that was the key. So then something unexpected happened. My choices to just invest every single day and to move forward even when I didn't feel like it. I started to notice that all of a sudden, the thing that I despised, truly, I started to get excited about again. And I started to wake up in the morning thinking, ooh, I can't wait to get to my writing because I have these thoughts or I have these questions about my data. A PhD needs to be original work. And so I had to come up with original ideas and original thoughts. And I really honestly thought there was no way I was ever going to be able to do that. But slowly, with each of my daily investments of discipline, I started to notice that I was reading the material and going, ooh, what about this? And I was making connections that I hadn't made before. And before I knew it, the flow was back in my writing. The thing that I thought I had lost forever, the passion, the curiosity, and the flow started to come back day by day by day. And truly, the breakthrough came when I finished my first draft of my dissertation. With a lot of hesitation, I do remember that day when I clicked on my mouse and I sent this first draft to my committee. I knew after so many years of doubt that I was actually going to finish because I had stopped negotiating with quitting. When you stop negotiating with whether or not you will do something and settle that in your mind, you can actually redirect your efforts to the small little things that are required to actually do that thing. And at the end of the day, I wrote every day something small. And every day I kept refining my work and editing it. And slowly it started to take shape. I never thought that that was possible. When you think of it as a whole, it feels impossible. When you start to break it into manageable pieces, it actually starts to be something that you can consider getting to the final stages of. So, finishing something hard, it's not about proving that you were capable all along. It's about becoming someone who doesn't quit. And then the second thing is that that long timeline and that process of choosing discipline every single day reshaped my identity. If you just think, Oh, I can picture myself having lost 30 pounds. Well, you don't get there overnight. You get there by doing every day something 5 little things. They don't have to be huge. You don't have to overhaul your whole diet. You don't have to spend 3 hours in the gym. If every day you did a handful of small things, those small things will not only contribute to your final result, but it'll actually reshape you and your identity along the way. And that is what my PhD did for me. My most valuable pieces have been that I've taught myself that I'm not someone who quits, and that I've shown myself that I'm not someone who quits. And then, second, it also really showed me that those little decisions really do add up to something significant. Because if you talk to me at any point in that journey in my basement when I was writing those words, I couldn't have pictured that those individual sentences that I was writing would contribute to the finishing of a degree. At this very moment, you may not be able to think of how that added 5-minute walk after your dinner is gonna get you to that loss of 50 pounds, or, turning your phone off earlier in the evening before bed so that you can get a full night of sleep. You can't necessarily see how those little things are gonna get you to that big finish line, but I guarantee you they do. And small investments made daily with discipline and intention will add up to something extremely significant. And for me, those daily initiative taking, discipline seeking actions led to the finishing of a degree that took me 20 years to complete. If I can do it, you can do it.